because they were losing macro big time. They were losing it, and that was their chance. That was their chance, and the key point, I think, of the game, because they were pushing the top lane, they got to go straight to the core after the keep and won the game just after winning 2 team fights when they were losing the entire game.
Well, we are going to Dragonshire for game number 2. This will be the map pick of Tempest, as they were the victors in game number 1. Your thoughts, G-Clef? I think it's a solid map for late game, but also a map that Miracle is pretty decent on, so looks like they just want to go to that late game and play the better team fights as we saw already in game 1.
Yeah, not likely going to see any more of the Lost Vikings anymore, but we're going to see lots of macro plays coming out again, with such as Dehaka, even Tyrael top line, maybe even Malthael coming out as we saw yesterday.
I remember the Vikings were used against Tempest in the 2016 Summer Global Finals by Dignitas. It was Snitch playing the Vikings on this map. I don't think we'll see that, but it brings back memories. You mentioning the Vikings again, back in Sweden. Well, it's going to be the S tier is removed here, the Nubrock for Miracle, and Tempest will remove Uther. This does leave Miracle the opportunity to draft Genji if that's what they're so inclined to do. It wouldn't be a shock or a stretch of the imagination to see the first pick Dehaka here, though, honestly.
They may even go for a first pick Ariel if they choose to do so, because Uther is already banned, and we've seen some crazy plays coming out from Miracle already, and knowing that Ariel stands up on top when Uther is banned. But there's always a friendly guy called Malfurion for Jaehyun all the time.
Yeah, Genji was first picked by them when they played against Mighty on this map, but it was a different time. That was on a different patch. We're on the Malthael patch now. Malthael is also a very strong hero on this map, not going to be picked first, but something that we need to remember that is very much in consideration because of the strong top lane, the strong solo lane presence that he provides. The 4-man is so important, so winning the top lane gives you an extra advantage. A lot of thought goes into this one, but they will just stick with the Genji pick that we saw from them last week. Not going to change it up at this stage.
Miracle, oftentimes they also went for the Trinity Vala comp with Tastar and Ariel coming out. So Tempest, in knowing that, I think if they banned Uther, maybe just taking Ariel Vala from the very beginning can also make it work. The problem is if Miracle chooses to ban Tastar and also go for something like Chromie, which we saw lots of counters to Ariel because there's no cleanse, and after using that Crystal Aegis, she was very weak, or making all like Vala weak, making all the front lines also weak without much protection. Miracle, in knowing that, that's something to take in mind and when Tempest is choosing to draft into Vala and Ariel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I mean, we're thinking like 3 steps deep, but if all those things occur, then yeah, I would say there's a chance of that. But Malfurion will be picked here with Stitches, so not really expecting this level of prioritization of that combo at this stage from Tempest, because they haven't really been showing it through this second phase, or especially the matches yesterday on this patch. So going to be strong on the 4-man though, and can win you a late game team fight. You can also hook the Dragon Knight at a weird angle to prevent it from really maximizing its damage. And it's Bikini Stitches, so that's always good.
Yeah, it's always a plus.
Never a minus.
In terms of Miracle side though, they do not have to grab Ariel, of course, because Malf is already taken on the other side. They can bring in all the tools they want. They can bring in Dehaka or also Falstad, grabbing both globals and taking the complete control over the map.
Greymane. Well, we'll see the Tyrael here. It's going to be Malthael for the solo lane.
They're getting greedy here.
Yeah, this draft is starting to look a little bit lopsided.
That's a lot of damage and sustain. I don't think even Stitches can hold for more than 2.5 seconds against all those heroes, especially when there's Cursed Bullet coming out. And Greymane, Genji, they do sort of have an escape, especially Genji, but Malthael, it's very hard. You can, of course, your W can let you escape, but only
kind
situational.
Yeah,
if
very situational.
If you have the passive onto minions or other heroes that you can go and backstab on.
I mean, Malthael has a little bit of self-healing, but not really going to be able to use that as a panic button. I like this Rhaegar ban. It's kind of a catch-all, as I don't think Tempest really knows quite yet what Miracle has planned, and neither do I. I know that they're going to have a strong 4-man with the Greymane having insanely good wave clear, extra DPS, so he's going to keep his W up, and then you have Genji who can rotate between the lanes, can do a little bit of gank action in the top lane if things go wrong for Malthael, who is going to be winning the soul lane against almost any hero. So that's the thought process behind what we've seen so far. But there's no synergy between any three of these heroes. You could just see this is about the map. We're going to dominate the 4-man, and we're going to dominate the soul lane, and we're going to win the game off that is the plan that we've been shown so far for Miracle.
I think I have to look into a little bit more into the draft and see the complete picture. I think they're considering going last right here. With Curse Bullet, maybe they're looking for the kills and getting those 5-second cooldown minus every single time. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Let's see. A little bit more into the draft as they ban Kalthus, which has been just so much CC follow-up along with the hook.
Yeah.
I feel like they already have enough though. Malfurion with the root, but of course not having Greymane. Maybe they'll just bring in Tychus for the minigun damage, as though that's the original standard way of lots of Korean teams bringing in with the Stitches and Malfurion comp.
So the Kalthus ban, I mean, it's mostly about the CC, but we've seen a lot of Kalthus used on this map to just gravity lapse the Dragon Knight, because that helps you burst it down so much faster. On defense, you have a lot of poke. If you're going for the convection build, then you have a lot of extra DPS to just safely chunk down that Dragon Knight in the late game. So I like this ban. I like it a lot more than the Tychus ban. They were just looking to isolate DPS. So for Tempest, though, what DPS is going to be DPS choice? So we're going to see just the Li Ming come in. Can't pair it with the Tychus. A little bit awkward here now for Tempest as they put all their eggs in the Stitches Malfurion basket. So they're going to bring Thrall in to combat Malthael in the top lane. That's a really cool idea because Thrall has a lot of self-sustain in the solo lane. He has the ability to, because he doesn't have such a large health pool, kind of out-sustain the burn that's going to come in from Malthael's passive, because normally you solo lane with like a tank. You've got like a Tyrael up there, or Sonya. You know, heroes like this, right? Dahaka, very tanky heroes that Malthael will burn through. So this is a way to counter Malthael, not blind counter, not a hard counter, but deal with him in an appropriate manner in that solo lane.
Yeah, they're both melee, but in terms of Thrall, this is the first Korean Thrall after the rework onto the quest systems, onto his skills a lot, but it's before 26.1, which is the buff with the healing coming in. So I think in terms of sustain and solo lane, I think Malthael wins a little bit. It's going to be a little bit tough how Thrall does against Malthael. It's very interesting. And for Miracle, it's Muradin and Kerosene, very standard. Without that Rhaegar, they will have a harder time going around the camp, but with Malthael, I think they will still be okay with the camps.
I think this comp for Miracle is just designed to win the lanes. You have Genji, Greymane, Muradin, Kharazim. So much sustain with the Kharazim if everyone positions correctly. You push 4-man really hard. You have Malthael in the top lane. You have Greymane for good camp control, so you're always going to have that extra pressure. But for team fighting, one single support for the Greymane, one single support for Genji, no invulnerability. 7-sided isn't going to be all that great here unless you catch the Stitches somehow, but there's not a whole lot of CC here for Miracle. You really only have Muradin Stormbolt, so I'm a little bit worried about the lack of CC and the team fight potential here for Miracle. Tempest is very pick-oriented. They have a better team fighting comp because they have Li Ming. Thrall will either have the Earthquake or the Sundering, both viable here. And their second range DPS will be the first Hammer we have seen. We didn't see Hammer in mid-season Brawl. We haven't seen her yet this season, but this is going to be another great way to deal with the 4-man in the bot lane. And BFG could very much be the choice. So I like the draft of Tempest a little bit more, I have to be honest with you, G-Clef.
Yep, I actually like both sides. It's going to be very tough to see. And solo laning will be tough for Thrall, of course. But bringing that burst damage for Tempest, I think that's enough. And we're going into Dragonshire game number 2. Tempest with the great comeback in game number 1. Can they do it again and bring it into 2-0 before the break? Let's go into Dragonshire for game number 2.
In blue, Judy on Muradin, Dami on Malthael, Jaehyun on Karazim, Crazy Moving on Genji, and Sniper on Greymane.
In red, Tempest, Hyde on Malfurion, on Kana on Leeming, Lockdown on Sergeant Hammer, Sign on Stitches, and H82 on Thrall.
So let's see how the solo lane works out. I'm really curious about that more than anything else. With Thrall being chosen here, it feels like they want to basically, I don't want to say he's a counter to Malthael, but I feel like he can do okay, whereas my other heroes will just get stomped. So again, Malthael will win this matchup for sure, but we'll see if that's how they even want to play it. Tempest is going to go for a heavy level 1 push, and Miracle is just looking to bait out the rotation top, but no one's going. That's why they had Muradin actually sitting up there looking for the potential grab, trying to catch Thrall as he heads up there. So they're going to heavily pressure Thrall to even have Muradin up there still. So we'll see how that one pans out as the push mid continues a little bit.
Tempest has a lot of siege, and they will also have the burst damage when they get those hooks, get those roots, along with Thrall even coming in with the melee damage.
So cool to see such an iconic, two iconic top laners in HGC and Dami fight off with such a weird matchup. In 2017, we're watching Malthael and Thrall in the top lane. It's going to be a big defining moment in this game as to how well HGC deals with this. He obviously arrived to lane late because they're pushing mid, so he does deal with this last wave, and we'll lose that top temple, of course. So that's pretty annoying. But in the next few minutes, we're going to get a bigger picture as to how well he's able to deal with the Malthael.
But with all the siege damage and because of the range of the hook, Miracle is just being safe right now and knowing that Lockdown is sieging down this tower already. And that's the power of Sergeant Hammer coming in along with Stitches, because those ranges are about the same, I'd say, maybe even more for the Sergeant Hammer, and Miracle has to be in the safe zone. So knowing that Lockdown is really using that advantage right now to pressure the spot lane. Yeah,
it's sometimes it's not just a hook that you're worried about, it's just the threat of the hook. The hook itself, the positioning of where Sign is standing means you have to respect that, because he could hook you if you stand in his zone. Whether he hits his hook or not is not as important. You just can't risk it. So this is going to give a lot of extra siege power here. And Genji, rotating in, usually just not able to fight. Well, I was going to say so far, not usually, but so far not able to find anything. Does come in though. They get the focus there, really well coordinated onto Hammer and burst her down. Wasn't accomplishing much except harassing Honkono in mid until this point, but there you go. That's what they were looking for.
Yep, exactly. And
God, this is still just such a bad matchup. Like, no one can beat Malthael solo.
It's
Crazy
really
Movie's gonna get this Dragon Knight. So, I mean, I was thinking the Thrall was gonna fare better than this, but it's just not. It is simply not the case.
I thought Malthael was gonna have an upper hand because it does have the better sustain with the rip, with a lot of the minions coming in. But all they need is a hook and a kill just like that, and that's what they're looking for this entire game. There's the first one.
Judy looking for the threaten here as well, which has happened several moments this game, trying to just zone HA2 out of EXP range. It's just so difficult when the minion waves against you, and as you said, the soul rip sustain coming out as well. Very difficult to deal with. Honkono comes over though. This is going to be an opportunity. Dami uses the jump here to try to get behind and escape, but will actually finally be taken out with the counter gank here. Where was Judy when they needed him? He was there all the time, just potentially threatening for a gank, but not there for the defense. So that's going to be a second kill here for Tempest, as they will even up the EXP right now.
That's all they needed. And with the camp, with Karazim coming in, with Greymane especially, they will have a faster camp time for sure. They lost Rehgar, but Karazim, I think it's a very good pick here. They did lose. The support fight in the draft in the games are really real. That's also why Karazim fell a little bit more. There was no change into Karazim, but because of all the meta, the dive-in meta, and Karazim could not bring out the sustained healing. That's one of the the biggest thing for Karazim. That's why he's fallen down so much onto support.
Well, because Dami is pushing so aggressively, I feel like this is going to be about as good as it gets for him. He's just going to be constantly ganked if he continues to do this. This is going to be the second time he dies now, solo in the top lane, trying to do damage to this fort. He does survive a little bit longer, but he really just prolongs his own death timer with this one. 20 seconds before he's going to respawn, and that night camp will be dealt with. This pressure, though, and the forced gank there, well, not forced, but, you know, Tempest punishing him. They committed all their resources to that, so that meant that they lost the bot camp. So feels like Miracle's is kind of crashing into Tempest really hard with the lanes. This is what I was talking about. You have the strong top laner who's going to create that extra pressure with Malthael there. Then they're going to get these extra camps. They got the neutral camp. Like you said, they got their blue side camp a lot faster. And had we saw Dami play a little bit less greedy, might have survived, and they might have had a big EXP lead now. But in theory, this is the idea, but it hasn't worked out too well in practice. And not because of the Thrall pick, which is still completely dominated up there in the top lane.
Yeah, he just had to, all he has to do is just not die, soak up all the EXP, and join the team fight. And after 10, I think they have a more balanced in terms of the CCs, and coming in with the resets of Leeming when they get a hook, I think they will get a lot more powerful. Miracle does have a lot of damage, but it seems like it's very situational. Muradin has to stay on the perfect spot for all the tanking, but hold on to that thought. H82 is getting ganked.
Okay, he takes Sundering, gets the double stun, but it's not going to be enough to save him here. That was a fail Sunder if I've ever seen one. That's 3 times the length of his death timer, but thought maybe he would save himself with it. Hyde gets the Twilight Dream here. The BFG! Sick! And he's going to get out. And this is actually going to turn around in Tempest's favor. The Wave of Force helps secure the kill here onto Judy. What is this? This is out of control. We do see, of course, the Tormented Souls coming in here, but the Root helps zone Dami out. The Dragon Blade being used here for Crazy William, but he gets taken out. That's another reset.
Turns around with the reset again, and Hyde supporting him from the back line. Hyde also almost died there, too.
That Twilight Dream was the start of something beautiful. The BFG was step 2. And HA2 respawns, just casual walks in. He's like, I know I didn't have any part of what you guys just accomplished, but I'm going to take the Dragon Knight.
I baited 2 heroes onto the top lane so you guys could win the team fight. That's what I did. But they will get the Dragon Knight for free because they won that. Also, Wave of Force. I guess Leeming took that as an escape tool. Also, Disintegrate against Genji can be painful to your own teammates. It's a good choice, indeed.
Doesn't need any extra reveals or anything like that from the Disintegrate also. The lack of CCs in the team fight, when you talk about impact of everything that went on, everything that occurred, hold that, we're going to have another one here. Lockdown's the target, does use his first aid here and his thrusters will get away. When you talk about the impact of CCs in these fights and burst, we saw the massive burst coming out from BFG that was enabled by the Twilight Dream. Wave of Force helped get the kill onto Judy because they have that extra tool to kind of force positioning errors. Sundering can happen right out of this, by the way, so they need to be careful. Nice helping hand save. So you've got Sundering, by the way, which wasn't used in that fight. That's another CC. You've got hooks. Tempest just has the better team fight composition in almost every way. There are ways you could see Miracle win these fights if they can get a pick with the Cursed Bullet. You can see a Dragon Blade get massive value, but with only Karazim to support, even the Palm isn't going to empower Dragon Blade. It's just going to save him if he overextends because he can't be using the Dragon Blade while he's in stasis. So I like the draft for Miracle for lanes, for the Merc pressure. We saw all of that work in the early game, but now that team fights are starting, now that we're post-10, Tempest seems to have a bit of an edge, as we saw in that last fight. Such a narrow biter when Hyde got that Twilight Dream off, but if they can continue to repeat performances like this, I worry for Miracle.
I think it all comes down to Hyde. The positioning of Hyde, Malthael, how well he can come in from the side, do all the damage with his mark onto multiple targets at the same time, and sustain healing along with Muradin CC. I think they have a very good chance also winning the team fight, but overall, as you said, Tempest seems to have an upper hand. Also, they have so much more burst with BFG coming in. A Wave of Force, if Leeming can survive a little bit more, that's also going to pressure and limit the reset from the Dragon Blade into the Swift Strike for Genji.
Well, the rotation down will occur here now as they've seen, or not seen, but sensed Miracle is off the map and want to punish this neutral camp take. See if they are able to get in here. It looks like they just rotate down, clear these, and they're just going to have to sit back and deal with it, unfortunately. Not a swift enough rotation to actually punish that move, so Miracle gets it for free. They've got really fast camp clears we've been talking about all game long, so that's part of the reason for this. They're just going to walk away, though. Don't want to overextend into the hooks, the sundering, these tools that Tempest have to punish them. All they get is the healing fountain, but Tommy gets a lot of extra soak in the top lane. He's just going to continue to use this strong presence, his wave clear and sustain, to keep this lane pushed so that they can maintain at least that top shrine. That's the idea with this.
And because they still have a very strong 4-man down there, and likely and oftentimes and basically all the time throughout the game, Malthael has been winning so hard on the top lane. Thrall was just losing his momentum, and now he's actually joining for the team fight, possibly looking for hooks here.
Let's try to see the Sundering coming from a really good angle. This is exactly what he was looking for. The juke here, the flank. Honkono insanely low, but look at that silence.
The BFG.
Crazy movement though, gets the reset, and he's going over the wall here.
And Honkono could not get the reset there. Crazy movement getting dove in with the hook and gets the kill finally, but it's 2-for-1.
That was really well done by Genji actually to turn the fight there. Getting the kill there onto Honkono. If Honkono lives, it's a totally different story. Ooh, Tempest goes in for the re-engage here, but look at this. Too much damage coming out from Malthael. There's going to be 2 more kills. They walk away without taking any more damage. Nearly get the kill onto Lockdown. So when you can see the Dragon Blade pop off and when there's no protection there for Li Ming, things change in an instant.
If Genji did not dive in from the very beginning of the fight and dash into multiple targets and got also silenced with Malfearon's Twilight Dream, I think it could have been a complete different team fight. But because he dove in from the very beginning, popped this Dragon Blade, did so much damage to the multiple target. Miracle had the upper hand with Dami Malthael coming in to sustain. That's how you do it, with where they're jumping in, initiating the team fight, because you know the pressure of the hook that's going to come in anytime.
Yeah. Well, this was basically a solo queue Dragon Knight from Dami. He came in, got caught, rooted, wave of forced, and lost about 70% of his health bar immediately. Will, of course, help clear out this fort, but this Dragon Knight was destined for better. So, well done by Tempest to actually kind of bait that in and catch it, punish it. Could have definitely taken a lot more damage here, but they did, you know, mitigate that. Oh, the hook is real on the sniper here. He's caught. Actually walked into it. Just not enough follow-up, though.
Yeah, no follow-up, and Honkono also used his skill, so lots of damage was missing. If they got the kill there, though, they could have forced the Dragon Knight. Also, big rotational up. They could have got their own camps and started the macro on themselves. Hyde was a little bit away, so they could not really follow up with any root pair. Oh, that's a little unfortunate there.
Still, it wasn't the best Dragon Knight for Miracle. They finished off 2 weakened forts, and now they have evened up the structures for their last disastrous fight before the one that earned them the Dragon Knight. They've kind of caught back up with that. And, just looking at talent builds here, we haven't been talking about it too much. Pretty standard on all accounts. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. The slam build coming in here for Stitches. The Sundering for Thrall was something that I figured we were going to see because of how you can flank with it. You can predict movement from Miracle that kind of cut the team fights in half, which is what we've been seeing a lot of the time.
Actually, Diamond Skin from Li Ming.
Yeah.
Because Honkono has been diving in a lot to get a kill with the teleport, so I guess that's a talent choice that he's going to go for. Thrall gets caught for the time being, and
Sign also gets very low.
Ooh, it's
H82 super low, does get taken out here, and Judy as well just will be able to disengage. And this is now massive lane pressure in favor of Miracle, and Dragon Knight's going to respawn pretty soon.
And now with the question, he's going to have 2 more seconds onto his passive every single time. That's a lot of percent damage for Tempest side, especially for Stitches and Thrall, as you saw. Oh, it's basically kind of like poison damage for over 4 seconds. But it's percent damage, so it's even more.
So yeah, and so the Dragon Knights are, the Dragon Shrines are now coming up here. We're going to see the invade for Miracle. They really want to have this lead going into that. They want to get the next Dragon Knight basically immediately. Going to go clear this fort. No ammo left on it, so it goes down ASAP. And as Tempest is rotating to deal with the other Dragon Knight, the other Knight Camp, not the Dragon Knight Camp, but it's the Knight Camp on Dragon Knight map on the Dragon Shire. falling over my words here, but they're forced to deal with that, and this gives Miracle all the space they need to start the channeling of the Dragon Knight. They're going to get the Unleash here. Tempest is just going to let it happen. Wasn't much they could do about this. So Miracle grabs this now, and they are poised to potentially get a keep with this. The last Dragon Knight was shut down immediately, but this one, I don't think they're going to get so lucky with it.
They're still looking for the grab, though. And that's exactly why Miracle is just not really going all in, knowing that Dragon Knight is just staying there for the harass on the mid lane. They're just buying time for now, actually, because they have the upper hand on the EXP. If they soak up a little bit more, they'll be hitting 20 before. They have an advantage in terms of structures too.
Okay, hook doesn't land here. That would have been an opportunity. Fortunately, it was either going to be onto Judy or Crazy Moving, both heroes who would have likely gotten away immediately. Nadami is now going to start working on this keep. Still 30 seconds on this Dragon Knight. You can see the damage is working in. This should be able to force this one down. Tempest needs to react here. Sniper's going to be one who's hooked, but the kick comes in. Sundering is here to try to lock him in. Unfortunately, it's just not enough. The Bile also already used early on in this fight. They get the keep, and they should be able to disengage. Dami doesn't have a big escape, though. Has to use the kick here. This actually might be a problem for him. Let's see if he can get out. He's actually going to try to turn into the fight here. A risky proposition.
Timing's a little early. They're right before 20, so maybe they're looking for a kill, and then 20 then massively will favor Miracle, but it just ended with Dami using his heroic there. Missing a lot of the hooks, and not just the hooks, the pairing with the root and the CC has not been too perfect in terms of Tempest's side, which they have to do it every single time if they can, but they've been missing those chances. It's costing them big right now.
The Stitches pick just isn't that great against the heroes they're trying to grab. If they can grab Sniper more often, they've had him a few times, but the times they grab Sniper, like you said, they didn't have the follow-up. And when they're grabbing Dami, it's a little bit risky now because he has his heroic online and could just use that against the team, so risky to grab him. But everybody else, Muradin, the Genji, the Karzi, these heroes have really good escapes, so just tough to make the Stitches valuable. But yeah, the trust hasn't been there with the roots. Sometimes the positioning hasn't been there for Hyde in general to be able to make anything of these hooks. Now the key pressure is against Tempest. And Miracle has just made this comp that's designed, remember, from the beginning to just push waves, get early advantages, get all the camps. They have taken basically every camp on this map. They've lost like 2 camps. Otherwise, they've invaded every time. They've stolen camps. They have such massive Merc control, the lane pressure all game long, the solo lane that was won massively in the early game. These are reasons why Tempest has been struggling so much. And they had a few good team fights, but it seems like now the lane pressure just forces them back, forces them to take bad team fights, or just won't allow them to team fight at all. So I like the way Miracle's playing this. The Dragon Blades as well have been really good from Crazy Moving. On the fights that Miracle have won, they've kind of won it off the back of those.
And with the upgrade into Blade, he will do even more damage for a longer time. Even upgrade into Shrouds on Malthael. That's can also zone out the enemy when you're having a team fight. So it'll be very interesting to see how Dami will be using that level 20 talent for Malthael. And Tempest just hit 20.
They lose the neutral camp again, and this is extra pressure onto the core now. Just weren't able to realize where Miracle was to punish them for that. And you know, the MVP teams has always been they've been very macro-based, very rotational-based, and that's what we're seeing here. And Tempest is all grouped up to try to force that team fight, like I was saying, but Miracle knows how to deny the team fight, delay them from going back, get some extra soak in the top lane. I mean, talk about soak post 20. It's not really a thing normally, but that's what we're seeing Dami do in the top lane. He's trying to control that Hyde with the Ice Block Twilight Dream here, not really accomplishing anything at all. Judy's actually going to use Rewind to go in deep.
Judy's going in,
Dragon Blade too.
Has Sustain and Sign getting so much damage to the back line. Does hook a 10, but it's onto the Muradin and even gets the Cleansing Touch.
But all during this time, the core's under attack. This is what I'm talking about. Miracle is forcing these fights that Tempest can't take, then delaying them from hearthing home. I'm not entirely sure what was going on with that Twilight Dream for Hyde. I just didn't quite catch how it was being used. See the BFG used here now.
There's
the repulsion, yeah.
Into Judy. Gets palmed though. Maybe it's ignored entirely. And does that actually get the kill? And +1, Jaehyun goes down.
Okay, they get double here, but they have to go through a lot. They keep walls still up, the core under attack. It is orbital BFG here, so this is going to for a long period of time eventually start to add up and help knock down those keeps, but Tempest is going to have to live a lot longer before that's really going to matter. The Dragon Knight's taken here from Miracle as well. Surviving this in itself is going to be an issue. So for those of you guys that don't know what Orbital BFG is, it's an upgrade to Blunt Force gun at 20 that will have the gun fired across the map basically periodically every few seconds. And it will do damage to heroes, it will do damage to minions, and also structures. So eventually you wear down these structures, the keeps. Not at this angle, really. It's going to help get this these cannon towers down, but he wants to, as soon as he can, recalibrate that. It'll be available in 5 seconds. So wherever you fire it, even in a team fight, it will continue to go. And it can actually relieve a lot of lane pressure. He's actually going to use it down here to the south. Wants to calibrate it to counteract the keep pressure that's coming there because the bot keep is down. So I like that choice. Very intelligent.
And even with that, they have to buy time, and Miracle, in knowing that they have the bottom keep down, they can go towards a team fight or even just macro this one out. Seems like Hyde is having a tough time on Malfurion. Not just Malfurion today, overall on his support role today.
This Dragon Knight did almost nothing. Though obviously remember the first 2 members were dead when he grabbed it, so wasn't much he could do with it, but it's just kind of funny how passively they played it because they really respect Tempest's ability to team fight. And now that the macro plays, the Merc control is not as much in Miracle's favor. They kind of have to play a little bit more passively. They have to kind of step back. As you can see, the map is still painted blue from all the camps they took, but as those start to respawn, they're going to look for other opportunities to continue with that lead. So you can see that Orbital BFG will eventually get the keep, but it's going to take a long time. Long time.
It will take a long time indeed, and of course, Dragonshire, this is going all out now. They're clearing the top pressure with the lane. Orbital BFG doing some damage to the keep. It will take a long time, as you mentioned, but Tempest, they have to make a move now. All the camps are being taken.
Looks like they want to try to pressure this keep a little bit. They're going to party bush up here. Sign's going to be able to maybe grab a hook. It looks like Miracle's going to take the safe route, not going to try to go around the right side. They want to just defend on their left side here. It's annoying because whenever there's a fight force here, the Orbital BFG will actually continue to do damage as well. Can recalibrate it if he wants to for even more shots. I could explain the intricacies of how it works. I used to be a hammer main back in the beta, and this is like the way that you built it on this map, but he can recalibrate it to come and hit more often, but it will do less damage and it will clear the waves less. So that's why he doesn't want to right now.
And does have a lot of siege power with Honkono even more.
Look at this. This is so annoying. It's going to add some extra pressure in these fights. Super aggressive positioning here for Lockdown, though. Looks like they want to go onto this. Judy comes in, uses his rewind already. The damage is coming out. That diamond skin helping Honkono survive. They want to turn and peel here. Lockdown, though, positioning not so good. But the Twilight Dream is immense. We see the second Orbital BFG go, and Storm Shield has to be used.
And the repulsion flops everyone around, and Honkono's looking for the kill. Palm, maybe this...
it was poorly timed. Poorly timed. He didn't actually trust that Judy would be able to dodge. If Judy hadn't dodged, there would have been a sick palm, but he just didn't trust that Judy would actually dodge, so then he dies. He was probably dead either way, but finally, Tempest is able to eventually win a team fight on their terms using Orbital BFG, that extra long-term siege power. Got into Miracle's heads a little bit. They had controlled the game in the macro all game long until this point, until Orbital BFG. Jaehyun's going to go down here. Sniper will be the last to fall. That's the full team wipe, and that is going to be game, but all game long, lane pressure, catapult pressure, the Knights, the Merc camp control was on Miracle's side. Their draft had faster clear. They had the better laning presence. That's why their early game was stronger. But in Supreme late game with the Orbital BFG, Tempest was able to mitigate that extra pressure in the bot lane and then force a fight on their terms with Stitches. The engage there was desperate for Miracle. We saw the dive in from Dami. Didn't look too well executed.
Also, Judy was trying to dive in from the beginning, but Sign, the god on the other side, stopped him from coming in initially, and really also made it kind of weird for Dami alone diving in. And when Muradin should be the first to dive in, take all the aggro, then Dami dives in at the same time, like Greymane and Tyrael jumping in at the same time, but Tyrael was not in. Greymane, if he goes in alone, he's like, Tyrael, are you coming soon? Like, I'm dying here. That was the kind of the case that we just saw in the last team fight. And I didn't really see all the action on top, but Sign was blocking Murden so hard. What a great player. Sign is just the god here.
Yeah, I thought it was really good zoning, good positioning, forcing to use rewind early in the fight. Couldn't find the value there. Malthael did a decent amount of damage, but Honkano had Diamond Skin. He was able to out-sustain all of that. Started to get his resets coming in, his dominance as well. So, speaking of dominance, it wasn't a dominant win there for either game, really. Unusual drafts in Game 1 and 2 for Miracle. Pretty creative, but Tempest has the dominant 2-0 lead. Can they close it out and take a 3-0 this evening? We're going to find out after we take this short commercial break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few. Just a few.